I'm Jess Burns with headlines for FSRN. Activists all over the world have mobilized to protest Israel's current military campaign against Hamas in Gaza. The escalation in fighting started Wednesday when an Israeli drone strike killed a top Hamas official. The elected leaders of Gaza then retaliated with rocket fire into Israel. The fighting has continued since, despite an attempt at a brief and failed ceasefire today as Egypt's prime minister visited the Gaza Strip. Anti-Israel protesters were out in Egypt, Malaysia, the UK, Iran, Canada, and the US, among other places. A pro-Israel demonstration in London has also been reported. In the West Bank, anti-Israel sentiment is high. FSRN's Ghassan Benor reports that West Bank protests were met by Israeli soldiers, yielding several injuries.
This afternoon, the weekly anti-border wall protests organized in a number of West Bank villages shifted focus to the military action in the Gaza Strip. Israeli soldiers confronted the nonviolent demonstrations using tear gas and rubber bullets. 6 Palestinian civilians were injured, 3 from the village of Nabi Saleh in central West Bank. Muhammad al-Tamimi was there.
Today we were subjected to attacks by soldiers who rained down on us from all directions in order to suppress our protest. They also attacked our homes and children.
Meanwhile, clashes erupted in Bethlehem, southern West Bank, and Ramallah, central West Bank, where hundreds gathered waving flags and chanting anti-Israeli slogans. At a demonstration in Jerusalem, Israeli troops made several arrests. Ghassan Benor, FSRN, Bethlehem.
A fire on an oil platform off the Louisiana coast in the Gulf of Mexico today left several people critically injured. 2 men are reported missing. The rig, located about 25 miles offshore, is owned by Houston-based Black Elk Energy, who issued a brief message on their website saying their thoughts and prayers are with those impacted. The platform was reportedly not actively pumping oil at the time of the explosion, although an oil sheen has been reported up to a half-mile away. Government environmental inspectors are traveling to the site. Activists working to stop mountaintop removal coal mining in southern Appalachia scored a victory when a company announced that it will end the practice. FSRN's Melinda Tuhus reports.
Patriot Coal Corporation came to its decision as part of a settlement with 3 environmental groups over high levels of selenium found in several of its mines. In a settlement publicized Thursday, the Missouri-based company acknowledged the significant impact of its mining operations on local communities. Bo Webb is the coordinator of the Appalachian Community Health Emergency, or ACE Act, campaign. The proposed law calls for ending surface mining due to serious documented health impacts for local residents, such as elevated cancer rates and birth defects. He said this is a positive development.
Finally, a coal company has acknowledged the peer-reviewed scientific research connecting mountaintop removal to health disparities in mountaintop removal communities.
Patriot's decision to phase out mountaintop removal comes as the company struggles with bankruptcy. Webb says more must be done to shut down mountaintop removal sites owned by other coal companies in Appalachia. Melinda Tuhus, FSRN.
A divided Sixth Circuit Court panel ruled yesterday that banning affirmative action violates minority rights to equal protection under the Constitution. The case focused on college admissions in Michigan. The judges said a state ban puts in place a structural imbalance. A student who wants a policy allowing officials to consider family alumni connections in the admissions process has several ways to pursue that goal. But under the state ban, students wanting a race-conscious admissions policy have only one avenue, changing the state constitution. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on another affirmative action case next year. Supporters of a group of Seattle grand jury resistors have declared this week an International Week of Solidarity for the Northwest activists jailed for not cooperating with federal investigations. 2 are still being held at a federal prison in SeaTac, Washington. Vigils and protests are planned this weekend. FSRN's Taylor-Canfield reports from Seattle.
Portland, Oregon resident Matt Duran has been held in federal custody since August 5th when he refused to testify before a grand jury investigating the activities of activists in Seattle, Portland, and Olympia. Catherine Oljanik from Olympia has been in detention since September. Portland resident Leolyn Plant was released from federal custody on October 17th, but neither Plant nor the U.S. attorney involved have discussed publicly the terms of her release. A fourth subpoenaed activist has stated he will also refuse to testify. Maddie Pfeiffer says he expects to be jailed for civil contempt on December 14th, when the grand jury reconvenes in Seattle. He was ordered to appear before the grand jury earlier this month, but Pfeiffer's attorney asked for a delay. On Sunday, supporters of the grand jury resistors plan to gather at the federal prison in SeaTac for a day of vigils and protests. Mark Taylor-Canfield, Free Speech Radio News, Seattle.
And that's headlines for FSRN. From Eugene, Oregon, I'm Jess Burns.